In fact, I might do one after. That'd be a good idea. So we'll just jump straight into it. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah? How are you enjoying Fight Island?
It's definitely a different experience, but no matter what, it's like Dean always says, he's like, he doesn't prepare the fighter for the path for the fighter, he prepares the fighter for the path. So no matter what happens, we're ready to just go in there and take care of business.
That's cool, I like that, that's very cool. So have you ever been to this part of the world before?
No, I have not. All the traveling I've done has actually been with the UFC.
Oh, has it?
Yeah.
Really?
So I've been to Prague, Liverpool, Sao Paulo.
I mean, there's some good destinations.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got to travel a lot, but it's all been through fighting.
Which has been your favorite so far?
Probably Prague.
Yeah?
Yeah, it was just absolutely gorgeous there. But like, I don't do too much fight week. I'm mostly in my hotel room, so it's like just the sights that I see, that's all I can really get out of it.
Definitely. And what do you think to Abu Dhabi?
It's absolutely insane out here. Just everything I feel like is so future, you know?
It is, isn't it? It reminds me of Futurama.
Yeah, 100%. Even just like how the hotel is built, all the architecture, just everything is just next level.
Have you been on the Formula One track yet?
No, I have not.
Have you not?
I heard last night that they had the cars racing loud as anything. I was looking out my window and like I see Ferrari zooming by. Like, that's insane.
It's crazy, isn't it? You can actually go and take a bike ride around the whole course. It's really good. I've done that. It's worth doing. Do you bike?
No, I do not.
Do you not? You don't bike?
I'm not a huge fan of cardio in general.
Oh, that's brilliant. So I got the fortune of meeting you on the beach yesterday. By the Octagon, which was really cool, watching you and Din hit pads. But when I was speaking to you, I told you that my first ever UFC fight was you against Molly McCann. So I mean, obviously as a British person at that moment, I was rooting for Molly. But so I come in and I watch and I'm just like so taken back by you. I just thought you were such a good athlete. So ever since then I've been following your career drastically. And we also had the pleasure of seeing you at ATT, didn't you, with Dan? Yeah. How's training at ATT?
Well, I actually don't train at ATT anymore.
Oh, no.
I left there in I think March-ish. Dean left ATT and then they kind of gave me the ultimatum where it's like you have to choose one or the other. So I've been with Dean Thomas since I was 16 years old. So
really?
yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Well, now we kind of have a unique situation. Dean bought a house probably about an hour and a half north of where ATT is. And it's a 5-bedroom house where he lives with Jose Shorty Torres. So they just fly fighters out for us. Like, he'll fly fighters out for us if we need them, and we'll always have training partners. We go to different schools or we'll travel. We've went to St. Louis a lot this camp because of Tyron, and I got to work with a couple girls out there too. So it's like we're just we got a little unique situation, a little family there.
That's very cool, man. That's very cool. So what was this fight camp like for you?
I spent a lot of it in St. Louis, right? And then the last 2 weeks I was actually by myself mostly. So it was like I just had to determine everything that I needed. I was finding drilling partners or just getting things done. And then I came out to Abu Dhabi 2 weeks early just to finish up my camp so I could have Dean Thomas here with me.
Oh man, that's cool. Do you prefer that? Having a bit more control yourself, or do you prefer your coach to take that control?
Oh, I 100% prefer him to take that control. And I feel like that was almost a problem at ATT for me, where I had great training partners all the time, but Dean would only be able to give me so much attention because he was spread so thin. So I was pretty much doing my own camps with great training partners. You know, I didn't really have any other coach telling me, you should be doing this, you need to work on this. And now that I actually have that, I see myself improving exponentially.
That's cool. So what do you think about like when a gym gives you an ultimatum?
My ideal thing was I was going to work with Dean most of the time. Then they go to ATT for sparring days and training partners and things like that. But I guess I don't know. There's so many politics in the MMA world, and I feel like that's what it comes down to. Is they want people who are dedicated to their team and only representing ATT. So
fair enough, I guess. I don't know. I'd kind of, if that was me, I think it would be good to have both. I don't think I'd like the ultimatum, and I saw that with Colby as well. Have you ever had any run-ins with Colby? Because obviously it's the gym, right? It was the same gym.
Honestly, Colby, like being at ATC, didn't make a noise. Like he would just go in the gym, get his work, and get out. Like I never talked to him once because he was just like there to work and that's it. So it's like I never saw him as a problem. But like obviously, what you see on social media is a different person.
It is, isn't it? It is. So one thing I was going to ask you about the whole Molly situation is once you won that. You said you had a few run-ins with her after, positive run-ins, obviously, but what were they like? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
So after I lost my fight to Macy Barber, Molly she fought on the same card that night. She beat Deanna Belbita, I believe, and so she was already having a drink and partying by the time that after I lost my fight. And I was just walking back getting into the hotel, and she opens up the side door and she's like, "Come have a drink, Gillian, we've all been there."
That's very cool.
Yeah, so I ended up just going down there and hanging out with her that night. So she's probably one of the coolest people I've ever fought, just great person in general. And she's the only person, at least with the UFC, that I've had the opportunity to do that with, be able to hang out with after. And,
for sure.
Yeah, but she's a special human in general.
Yeah, would you ever consider training with her?
Oh, 100%, yeah. Even that night, she was sitting down, she's like, "Come on, Gillian, let's grapple." I'm like, "Not now."
Because I think you pushed her into, like, really focusing on her grappling, didn't you?
She always she was telling me, she's like, "You're the one who changed my fighting." And what she told me that night when I lost to Macy, she's like, "You don't know your system's broken until someone breaks it, you know?" And Macy was that for me, breaking my system. And she was like, "You did that to me."
That's very cool.
Yeah.
What does that like do to you as of like mentally when you hear somebody say that?
I guess it just builds your confidence in a way. It feels like I don't know specifically really. It's like, because there's always someone better than you know, and sometimes you get a little too cocky, you don't realize that.
Is that what you put down to the Macy Barber fight then, is that you got a little bit too cocky?
A little bit there, and like I did get caught, you know, she caught me with one good punch, and after that I guess I didn't recover fast enough, you know. If I was still okay to continue the fight, but obviously I was in a poor position, and I understand why the ref stopped it.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Now, when I see you and meet you, say I didn't know anything about you, I would never in my life put you down as an MMA fighter. And I don't mean to, I hope that you don't find that disrespectful, me saying that. I just mean it because you seem like such a sweet person. So, how did you get into this?
I have honestly no idea. Like, I don't know what made me walk into a gym in the first place, because I never knew what mixed martial arts was. I didn't know what jiu-jitsu was. I never like watched a kickboxing movie and was like, I want to do that, you know? It was just kind of, when I was 15, 16 years old, and I told my dad, I was like, I want to do kickboxing. And so he started looking around trying to find a school, and Dean Thomas had a school that was like 2 minutes away from my house. So that's where I ended up started training there, and I guess I just kind of fell in love with it. I started with like a cardio kickboxing class, and it was me being 16 years old and like a bunch of like moms, you know, just soccer moms.
Yeah.
And then they had an MMA class there, and one of my friends who was a wrestler at my high school, he was like, "Why don't you come try it?" So I just did it because I had a partner, and then I just kind of kept on going. And I guess just me being a hard worker, Dean recognized that in me and just started putting his time into me and dedicating himself to me, and that's really made all the difference.
That's cool. So when someone said to you, oh, I assume somebody came to you initially and said, I think you should have a fight, an MMA fight. Is that how it happened? Or did you take it upon yourself to?
I guess it was just kind of like I was training. I was there like 4 or 5 days a week or more than that. So they're like, we need to get you a fight. It just kind of fell into place.
How did you feel about that?
I was ready for it. You know, I was training with the boys every single day. So I was like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm ready for anything. I didn't even know jiu-jitsu when I had my first MMA fight. I was still just 100% striking. Like, I remember I shot a takedown that I learned like the week before the fight, and I just held her up against the cage and I was like, what do I do here?
What was it? Because it strikes me like a lot, because you say that you never intended to get into fighting, and it was something that you wanted to do for, was it cardio, kickboxing, or just to keep in shape? I have no idea why I wanted to.
What was it like then the first time you got hit in the face? I remember because after I trained at the gym for like 2 or 3 months, then I started dating one of the guys who was an amateur fighter there. And I remember one of my first days sparring, he punched me and gave me a bloody nose. And that's the only time I've ever had a bloody nose, like where it was like leaking. And I just remember I was like, my face is warm running in and then I ran into the bathroom, just had blood running down my face. But I don't know, it's not as bad as you think, I guess.
No, I don't think it is. But one on the nose, I don't like those ones. Not a fan of them.
Like I said, that's the only, like I feel like I'm pretty durable. That's the only time I've ever had a bloody nose like that. It was like one of my first times sparring, and it was my boyfriend at the time.
So, I mean, I ask this to a lot of fighters because I'm really interested in like how it affects somebody inside and out the cage. And we've seen so many good examples of it, like Nick Diaz, Dan Hardy, but advocates of cannabis. Now, I know that you're somewhat of an advocate of cannabis. I was just wondering if you can talk to me a little bit how you use it and the effects that it has for you inside and outside the cage.
Well, obviously inside the cage now with USADA in play, I can't use it during fight week or anything, but outside the cage, I feel like just mentally it gets me into almost a state of flow where it's like I am when I am fighting. So it's like it gives me the same mentality as I am when I am in the fight, and it gets you so you can relax and just focus. Like the more relaxed you are, the smarter decisions you're gonna make, and you're not gonna be sitting there trying to force things to happen. You're just gonna take them when they do happen.
For sure. So what's it like stopping then before you have a fight? Because I mean, I've come here and done that, and I'm surprised at some of the withdrawal effects that can happen. And if you're a fighter and you're going through those moments, I imagine that makes it difficult sometimes. Like, I mean, have you had like these wild dreams and hot sweats at night?
I was about to say, the dreams are something else.
They are.
I've been having some crazy dreams since I've been here, definitely.
Have you got any funny ones to share? I've got a funny one to share after you tell me one of yours.
So before I got into the Tough House, I used to work at Chili's. It's a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I had a dream that they were kidnapping me. So I'm like, that's how I felt about that job for one thing.
Kidnapping your soul.
Yeah.
For sure, man. So can you remember a time like in fight week where you have struggled with some things like that?
Not necessarily. I feel like if anything, like my appetite goes away a little bit, so it helps with the weight cut.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah.
That is a good point. I didn't actually think about that. That happened to me as well when I first got here. I'd be like, I'm starving, and then I'd have like 2 bits of penny pasta, and my body's like, you're full and you're about to throw up. It's like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, so it makes it easier to eat smaller portions. I'm not hungry all the time.
That's a good point. Yeah, I suppose it could be used quite effectively then in that case, can't it? So have you had any experiences with psilocybin?
Yes, I have.
Cool.
Yeah.
And what are they like?
I actually...
Same question, sorry, with regards to it, like mentally. And I know when I say mentally, I don't mean, you do it before you go into a fight, but I imagine the repercussions of these things can change your mindset somewhat. And I was wondering if they have changed anything, maybe your outlet, maybe the way you handle media or the spotlight or anything like that.
I feel like probably my most important trip in my life was when it was like as I was starting my pro career, I broke up with I was with a boy for like 4 or 5 years. I broke up with him, and then I would just kind of went into a depression at the beginning of my pro career where I didn't really know where I was going with life. I kind of lost my love for the sport, and through this trip was where I feel like I refound my love, refound my purpose for the sport. And then that's when I dedicated myself, where I was like, all right, this is like, after that one trip, I had my first pro loss, which I was doing everything I shouldn't have been before a fight, like smoking blunts the day of the fight, drinking through my fight camp. Like I didn't care about fighting anymore at all when I had my first pro fight, and then I lost that fight, and I still didn't really care. And then I had a shroom trip where it was just like I kind of came to a realization that this is like what I love, this is what you spend your time doing, and nothing makes you happier. And then after that, I just kept on taking fight after fight after fight, and within a year I was in the UFC.
So so in some senses, psilocybin is responsible for you being in the UFC?
Oh yeah, it 100% got me out of that depression. Like where I was just in such a low place in my life where I just wanted to be destructive to myself. I wasn't doing anything positive to myself, and then I found my love.
That's cool. Because there's many ways you can go from that point, isn't it? When you hit that depression or you hit that that point in your life. And a lot of people take it upon them to use prescription drugs, which are obviously the worst. Did you ever consider doing that, or was it just like, I'm just gonna try this, was it just an accident?
Yeah, I guess that wasn't my intention going into it. I wasn't like, this is what I'm gonna do, but in the trip, that's where it took me.
Wow.
That it took me to the place where it's like I realized that I was focusing on things that I shouldn't have been focusing on, like drinking and just like spending time with people I shouldn't have been hanging out with too, like people who weren't going anywhere in their lives and they still have gone nowhere in their lives. And it's like, I'm like, why are you spending your time with all these people when you could be spending your time doing something you love?
Yeah.
And it's like, it just changed my focus 100%.
That's amazing. It's so cool to hear. Have you met anybody along the way that's kind of disagreed with that type of thing?
I guess I haven't been extremely open about it.
Right.
So with marijuana, definitely, like I'm very open about marijuana use. So I feel like I get people all the time messaging me like, "Oh, stop that! You don't need that." Or
really?
Anytime I post a picture on Instagram, I always have people commenting hate on it. And it's like, do what you want, and if it makes you happy, it makes you happy. But you find your way, and if you're successful at it, then keep on doing what you do.
Definitely. So, did the red hair come from a trip?
I don't even know. I guess I make a lot of I don't know. I make a lot of decisions that I just go with them. Like fighting, I didn't know why I did it. With the red hair, I just kind of did it, and I like it, and it stuck. And now I feel like it's how people know me.
For sure it is. So, I want to watch this Macy Barber fight with you. Now, you've said you've watched this a few times, right? And you broke it down with Din. Before we go into this, can you give me a little bit of a summary of what you and Din got out of the fight?
I guess at that point in my career, I wasn't as comfortable with my striking as I have. Well, I feel like I've just developed this comfort within these last couple months. But so it's like I was just so much. I need to get this fight to the ground. I need to get it to the ground, and just rushing to get there, And when it didn't happen, that was right after it. I got caught, So I guess there's nothing really to say after the point that I got caught. I took too long to recover, and then whenever I tried to come back, it was too late.
Sure, fair enough. Right, let's get into this a little bit. So I won't keep you for too long. I know that you're out of your sleep cycle now. Before we get onto that, how is that? Like flipping your body, well, you're not really flipping it, but you're flipping it in comparison to when the sun is out, and that's a bit of a trip in itself.
So I guess we'll see fight night how it feels. It's a different experience in general, having to fight at 2 a.m.
Yeah, that's it, right? It must be really, really difficult, because even for me, I think I can stay up at any time, but when it's 2 hours left of the UFC and I'm flaking, I'm like, Jesus Christ, these fighters that are in a similar position to me, they've been here as long as I have. Must be very, very challenging. But before, 1 second. So, what does this image put in your head straight away?
That I want it back.
Yeah?
Yeah, 100%. Any of my losses, I know I'm better than that. I know that I'm better than her. I know that I can beat her. So I just want to get back in there with her and prove it. Very
cool. Now, Bruce Buffer is currently reading out your name. What's going on in your head? Because for me, I don't even think I'd be thinking about the fight. I think I'd be thinking of just such random weird things. Is it similar for you, or?
I remember my first time, Molly, when I fought Molly, that was the first time Bruce was ever there. When that was technically my second UFC fight, but the first one Bruce Buffer wasn't there. So that one I was just just don't look at him, don't look at it. It won't be real, It's just seeing Bruce there made it too real for me that I'm in the UFC, this is where I am. But in this moment, I studied Macy so much, just her mannerisms and when she walks in the cage and just looking at her. So I was just looking at her thinking this is exactly what you saw. This is exactly what you know is coming.
Very cool. So you're feeling confident?
Oh yeah, 100%. Also, I feel like I don't know what to do with my hands a lot of these times. How do you look cool in these moments?
It does make you think, doesn't it?
Makes you think too much about what you're doing.
I can imagine. And I didn't actually notice on this bit straight away, but were you the first to come out?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
So that's another thing as well, right? So you've made your walk, you're doing your thing, adrenaline's all good. Then the lights go off and Macy comes out, and you've got what, like about 5 or 6 minutes just to stand in the octagon with your own force. What's that like?
Like I said, I studied with this one especially. I studied her a lot, and she walked out to the same song every single time. So whenever it started, I was just like, all right, you knew, like. I was like, all right, this is a stupid song.
What song was it?
I think it's Katy Perry. It's like I Am a Champion or something.
Yes,
yeah.
Definitely stupid song.
So that was my only thought in that moment.
Does that give you a bit of aggression as well? Like, you idiot, choosing a stupid song.
Maybe not aggression, but I definitely noticed it.
Oh, that's gold. What do you think to Macy as well, like outs before this fight? Did you like hold her as high caliber as she was put out there to be?
I didn't, and I still don't think she is as they put her out there to be. Like, she was talking about, oh, I can take on Valentina, which I think is absolutely delusional. You know, like I'm still not saying I can take on Valentina because I don't think that I'm ready for that fight at this moment. I will be in 2 years maybe, but at this moment, like if you put me in the cage with Valentina, that's gonna be a really rough matchup.
Yeah.
Like no matter what, I would say yes to it. It's still, I feel like with my fighting style, I have potential to take out any girl in this division, but that's still like Valentina's a monster. You know,
She's
next level.
She is a monster. So what is it in between, like now in these 2 years, other than experience? I'd imagine that you think you could put yourself in there with Valentina.
I feel like I just keep on growing as a fighter. I'm 25 years old and I'm just keep on improving every single fight, every single day. And especially now with Dean's 100% attention, I feel like I see myself just growing. So I don't see any reason why I couldn't be the best in the world in 2 years.
That's fucking awesome. I don't either. So we're about to go down. Is this a typical stance for you as the fight's back? Because we see like Style Bender and the McGregor's like on the knee, on their, well, you know, squatting essentially.
Yeah, I feel like that is typical for me. In my last fight, I was doing this, but I was also smiling a lot while I don't know, my last fight, I feel like I really found myself in the cage where I was just like, it felt like home, and in between every single round, I was just looking at her smiling because I wanted to let her know that I was happy to be there, that like she doesn't belong here with me, you know?
That is cool. That's a powerful feeling as well when you're stepping into the cage to feel that.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So let's go into this, right. I haven't actually seen this ref before. So, is it about here that you forget the cameras and you're just involved, or was it before then?
I feel like before then you forget the cameras, but it's like no matter what the crowd, you still hear through the whole fight. Like little things will stand out here and there.
Well, somebody shouting something. Right?
Yeah, like I remember when I fought Molly McCann, the girl who did my hair that day. Like that braided my hair the morning of, she told me, because I told her, I'm like, yeah, everybody's gonna be booing me, and she's like, don't worry, I'll cheer for you. And during the fight you can hear her, she's like, let's go Gillian. And I remember I heard her during the fight.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's like, that's the one person in the whole arena cheering for me.
Have you had anything, like, is that the strangest thing you've had in the middle of a fight, or have you had some wild things being shouted out in the middle of the fight?
I guess I've never heard anything crazy, but there's definitely things that like stand out more than others. Like again when I fought Molly, the whole crowd was like Molly, Molly, and the second they did that, I was like, Gillian, you need to do something right now. Like you need to make them stop cheering her name.
Wow. It's like reverse psychology almost there, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%.
That's so cool. Right, let's go in a little bit more. So just talk to me about like where and when you think this fight goes a bit wrong.
Honestly, she can't, just Macy in general, a smart game plan from her. She fights southpaw in all her other fights. So we were drilling for a southpaw the whole camp. And then she
switched it up.
Yeah, she came out orthodox. So it's like, I don't think it necessarily messed with me mentally, but it's definitely not what I was ready for, and it's not what I was drilling for, so I don't feel like my technique was 100% ready for that.
That's really interesting. So are you waiting for her almost to like switch back? Like, what are you doing here?
I guess just trying to execute my game plan to the best of my ability. We knew what we wanted. We knew that if I got her on the ground that I can finish her. So it's like, and like I said, at this point, I wasn't confident in my stand-up. I haven't been my whole UFC career until my last fight. I feel like I feel like that's really a game changer for me, is now I don't have to rush things. I'm not like, I need to get the takedown. I'm like, all right, we can wait here and wait till the takedown comes,
Very
you know?
cool. Yeah, and that's all part of being in the flow state as well, I'd imagine.
Right? Oh yeah, 100%. It's not trying to force things. It's never gonna work, and that's what gets you tired in a fight.
Yeah, I did a similar interview with Tom Aspinall, and he was saying a similar thing in that, like, every time I'm looking for the knockout, it never happens. But when I'm not expecting it and I punch somebody and they just fall down, and that gives him confidence in knowing that, like, it's not about the power, it's about the technique and the precision. Is that something you've recently learned as well?
And Dean's always saying to me, he's like, there's like, you see fighters getting gassed, and there's no reason you should get gassed in 15 minutes. We'll do like 6 rounds in the gym, 6 5-minute rounds in the gym, and we'll be fine. But then you see somebody fight for 15 minutes and they get gassed out. But you're not making smart decisions. You're getting tense, and you're not fighting your fight. You're not just sitting there flowing, and that's what's making you tired.
Sure. What about the idea of like the adrenaline and the nerves, like taking some of your gas away? Do you know what I mean? Like, I've heard that from some people.
I feel like in my earlier fights maybe, but I honestly, I hardly feel any adrenaline. My last fight, it was,
Really?
especially my last fight, I was just so calm for the whole time. Didn't really feel like that adrenaline boost or anything like that. But definitely my first amateur fight, I remember walking out of the cage, I was like, what happened? It's such a blur because you have so much adrenaline in you. It was 9 minutes and they just go by like that.
Wow, that sounds crazy. I really want to have a fight just to feel these psychological things, but I'll probably just walk in there thinking too much and then we know what will happen. So you actually did get hit a minute before. I'm just going to go back to that. Sorry. Like here.
Yeah, there was only one punch where I felt in that fight where I was like, all right, that one hurt. Well, like I wouldn't say it hurt, but it put me in a different space of mind where I wasn't there.
When we get to that bit, you have to point me out. Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, it's right before the finish. It was like right before she rushes me, she catches me with one punch. Watching the video, I've only watched it once or twice, but watching the video, I don't think I could pinpoint it out. But I know there's one moment where she hit me and it put me in a different state of mind where I wasn't there for a couple seconds, you know?
And what's it like being in that? Are you even aware that you're fighting in the UFC at that point? Or is it like, it might be a silly question.
At this point, I'm not aware that I'm fighting in the UFC, I guess. I'm just there to fight at this moment.
Oh, that's nice.
It definitely felt like you always feel like you do a lot worse until you watch yourself, and then I'm like, you didn't do too bad, but like I definitely got too desperate in this fight.
Was that an example of that?
No, that was me faking to get to the that's my game plan a lot of the times, is girls are so scared of getting taken down with me that they start sprawling so hard that they forget about striking too.
Oh, see, that's lovely.
Yeah, that's my thing too. A lot of girls don't like pulling guard and stuff in MMA, but even here it's like I should be doing more jiu-jitsu wise, and I'm making a lot of mistakes.
Okay,
I'm sitting here looking at myself like, oh, what are you doing?
Oh no, I hope. So what would you do explicitly different in this moment?
My arm all the way up behind her back should be underneath her butt. So I should be holding my own hand underneath her butt and shrugging her forward, so then I'm off balancing her. So she's more worried about posting her hands and balancing herself than she is about standing up right now. It's like I was almost waiting for her to do something in this moment. It was like, all right, you got what you want, and now what? You know?
Yeah. It's fascinating.
So many technical errors. And here honestly, this part is probably the part I regret the most about the fight.
Yeah?
Because I feel like I just felt like at this point I'm like, all right, you have a hold of her now, don't let go, you know?
Right, so this is a little bit where, taking you back to what you said earlier, where you first got somebody up the cage and you were just holding them.
Yeah, it's like I was so desperate to get the takedown. It's like I should have just broken off and started striking again right here. But I was just like, all right, you finally got her, Gillian, like, hold her.
Did you sync that colour intentionally?
What?
Or were you just giving it your shorts and obviously matching to your hair?
Well, they actually do it by what country you represent. So they give us the choice that we can do like I can do white, black, or red being Canadian. So I choose red just because it matches the hair.
Now these elbow strikes, are they quite effective? Because they look, I mean, not necessarily that one, but typically they look like pretty nasty.
Like, it's so weird to describe how it, like, because it's like you feel that, like, you notice it happening, but you don't feel it.
Yeah.
Like,
so you're not actually sure that it's actually even an elbow?
Yeah, you know you get hit, and then sometimes somebody catches you and you're like, oh, that was a good one. But it's still like, it doesn't hurt.
I know what you mean, yeah.
I think it was one of those punches there that, like I said, she caught me decent once, and then I know that I got rushed after.
Is this kind of like inspiring in some ways to see, do you know what I mean? For your neck just to be like, well, I know this is never going to happen again.
I just know I've grown a lot as a fighter. I know that it's not to say that it won't happen again. You know, people get caught all the time. It doesn't mean that it won't. Like there's a lot of girls who are all good, but I feel like I've definitely I've learned so much from every one of my losses. Like you take so much and you just keep on growing. And for me, because I didn't really play sports as a kid, I've never had any competition experience. So really the UFC is where I'm getting my competition experience, you know? So I'm still learning just on a big stage now, so it's hard.
Yeah, for sure. You're doing a good job. So obviously the ref comes in here and the look of disappointment says it all, really, doesn't it? Like, it shows me as well that you're really aware of what's going on. What is exactly, I mean, I know it's a simple answer, but if you could tell me what's going on here.
I guess in the moment I was just upset, you know, like watching it back, like even when I was throwing my last couple punches there, I'm thinking I'm like, fight back, Gillian, you gotta fight back, and I'm doing it, and then the ref stops it. So, you know?
Would you argue it was an early stoppage?
Yes and no. The ref's in a tough position no matter what, you know. He has to make a split-second decision, and she was rushing me. I was taking a lot of damage, but I'm like, let a fighter go out on her shield. Let me drop, you know. For sure. Of course. I don't know. It's hard to say. A lot of people don't want to see that. People don't want to see the brain damage, but like, we're too prideful as fighters.
For sure, and you know what you're feeling as well, and I imagine in that moment you do feel like you can carry on.
Oh yeah, I could 100% be able to carry on, but I also understand why the ref stopped it.
Sure, sure. So, last couple of questions really is the Ultimate Fighter experience. That it looks so cool. What is it like?
That was probably the worst and the best experience of my life.
Really?
Like, I loved it more than anything else, but I would never do it again.
Really?
It's 6 weeks away from your family, friends, everything like that. There's no phones, no TV, no music, no books.
No music?
No, nothing.
I didn't know that.
No, because they can't for copyright issues. So they can't have music playing in the background. You can't be reading a book because I'm assuming they want drama. They want you talking to each other. They want you in each other's faces. So it's definitely a stressful situation when you're in the house. But being at the gym, like, I was that was my happy place. It was so amazing because one, I was with Justin Gaethje and his team, which he's an absolute inspiration to me every single day. Like even my last fight, like watching his I can't remember, he was going to the Tony Ferguson fight like a week before I fought Courtney Casey, and just how he's like, I'm willing to go in there and die. And like when he says that, like you believe it 100% because he is 100% honest with himself about that. He's going in there to stop your heart or until his heart stops. And I just admire that so much about him. He has such a strong mentality, and there's no one that was made for this sport more than he was. So it's like being able to just be around him and that mentality, and then his coach Trevor Whitman as well. And I'm very picky about who I let coach me. I feel like I won't take advice from a lot of people, but like 2 people I put on a pedestal are Dean Thomas and Trevor Whitman, where I'm like, they're just that next level mentality where you can just by having one conversation with them, you can tell. And then you're also surrounded by 7, 8 of the best girls in the world who want it just as bad as you do. So you have the best training partners and the best coaches. So it's really an ideal situation when you're in the gym. But then leaving the gym is where, when you're in the house, it just gets a little mental.
Who was the most annoying?
There's definitely a few, I feel like. Throw out names.
No, you don't have to do that. But no, yeah, that was an awesome little chat. Really appreciate you sitting down with me and spending some of your sleep time for full Reptile. Very cool of you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Awesome.